Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hello. How is it going, everybody? Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are. I know we have viewers from all over today. So make sure to check in again if you haven't already. Hello, Shamsa31. Abhinav, yes, I do remember you. All right. Who here is ready to dive in to getting your very first web app deployed? Actually, let me just get a poll real quick. So out of everybody who's watching right now, you can just put this in the chat. Again, you don't need to speak up. So even if you're shy, it's no problem at all. Um, how many of you have deployed a website before? Actually, put a 1 in the chat if you have, and 0 if you have not. Okay, so we have Abhinav has, Sahana has. Okay, Aman, this is going to be your first time. Amanzda 666 is going to be the first time deploying. Mo Ready as well. And Manga Boo Boo. I don't know. Like, you're definitely mispronouncing a lot of these names, but okay, that's really exciting then. It looks like there's a lot of people who have not deployed a website before. So this is going to be great then for everybody here. All right. So again, as always, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in the chat. But I think we have a decent amount of viewers here, so let's get started. I do want to first introduce myself because you might be asking, oh, all right, why is this person teaching me how to deploy a website? I have a bunch of deployed websites. I've been doing this for a while, about 4 or 5 years now. Did it for some companies, did it for some personal projects, and really the benefit in actually deploying one of your own websites. You can build everything locally, that's great, but I think deploying it is really the next step to getting it out, something out there, right? So imagine you have like a website or a web app that you were developing throughout your um, throughout like a hackathon, for example, right? Then the next stage would be to obviously publish it live so that anybody can see it from anywhere in the world, no matter where they are. So the question is, how do you do that? And that's sort of the question that we're going to be answering today. All right. So there's going to be several steps to this. And the first part is we're just going to be pulling in some code from GitHub. I have a GitHub repository up, and on there, there's a bunch of code for like a very simple portfolio website that is a template. I will be completely honest, I did not develop that myself. So I'm giving credit where credit is due. It is a template, but we're just going to be making some changes to that, sort of personalizing it a little bit for our own purposes. And then we're going to just code up a little bit more of it, maybe change some colors, change some fonts, do what we want, and then push it to GitHub. And then from GitHub actually has this tool called the GitHub Pages. And GitHub Pages allows you to deploy web apps with really little code, if any code at all. So then y'all can just watch it deploy, and then you'll be able to see it live. And then after that, we're also going to go into some other alternatives. And if you want to sort of link your own domain, because this you won't be able to link your own domain. So if you wanted to do, for example, Abdullah, my last name is Hassani, so abdullahhassani.com, then we'd be going over how to do that. And it looks like Abhinav is actually in the chat. He has a portfolio as well. So that's a great example of sort of what it would look like if you were to deploy something on your own. All right, any questions on that before we get started? I'll just give it a couple minutes to make sure no one has any questions. And again, I do see we have a few more viewers. Remember to check in if you have not already. All right. In that case, let's get started. So again, we're going to use the ones and zeros. How many of y'all have pulled code from GitHub? 1 if you have, 0 if you have never pulled code from GitHub before. And y'all can just drop those numbers in the chat. Okay, we've got some zeros, some ones. Okay, awesome, awesome. So we're gonna take it real easy, we're gonna take it real slow, and it's gonna be a good time, all right? So again, let me see if I can move this here. So if you've never ever pushed or pulled anything using Git, then the first thing you want to do is install Git. So, or I guess first you can install VS Code. So if everyone can just go to like VS Code download, I think it might be useful if I shared my screen here. All right. There it is. So again, just go to code.visualstudio.com/download, and then you can download whichever Visual Studio version is relevant to you. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to be doing this. But if you haven't already, just go ahead and do that. And I'll give it a second. And let me actually drop this in the chat as well so that you all have access to it. There you go. So we're just going to be using Visual Studio, and Visual Studio is just sort of an IDE. It's just somewhere where you can code on. It's an environment to code on. Don't have to be on Visual Studio Code. You can use Visual Studio. You can use, I don't know what the other alternatives are. Honestly, I'm so ingrained into like the Visual Studio, uh, into Visual Studio that I'm just, Visual Studio all the way. But I know there's other ones like PyCharm if you're trying to do like Python, IntelliJ, uh, other IDEs of that sort. So Visual Studio, I think, is the very popular one. So go ahead and install that if you have not already. And if you have already installed Visual Studio Code or some other IDE, you can put a 1 in the chat. Otherwise, just drop a 0 so I know that where we're at. All right, looks like we have a few more viewers. So again, hello everybody else who's just joined. We're just quickly going over how to deploy a web app, and step 0, right before any of that can happen, is you need to have like an IDE locally. So we have Visual Studio for that. And Abhinav asked, do we need a live server for this? You will not need a live server. Again, we're going to be pushing everything to GitHub, and then they're going to be handling everything else for now. So that's like sort of step 1 of sort of deploying a web app. And then there's other ways you can sort of deploy something. You can have something that's more like on-prem where you host everything on your own. That is an option. But now, because there are so many other options that actually allow you to have a very generous free tier where you can deploy your web app without any issue, there's really no need for that. You will not need the live server as an extension of VS Code, no. Just VS Code bare bones should be all you need. And I'll give that another couple minutes. And then for everybody who does have VS Code or some other IDE that they'd like to use, go ahead and make a template of this GitHub link right here. So I just put a GitHub link that's to my personal GitHub, and on there I have a repo or repository that essentially has the template that we're going to be working with. So this is sort of the very bare bones template. It is a very simple, it's a pretty simple, but we're going to be taking a look at what it looks like in just a second, and you're going to be having your own version of this very soon. Any questions so far? Also, just to sort of give you all a preview, this is what the website is going to look like. So it's something like this. You know, you have your title over here. This is usually going to be your portfolio. And then I put Izzy the Internet Edgeworm because that's the new MLH mascot. You can put whatever you want down here. And then this is sort of just a little bit about you in the portfolio section, right? And again, you replace this usually with your anything that you want. So this over here could be replaced with one of your projects, and then all your different projects are being shown over here with a little description of what you did for that project and how that relates to you, and a little about section. This one I just put the Global Hack Week about section, and again, you can obviously change that. And join today just leads to the Global Hack Week website. Isn't that awesome? But again, obviously you can link it to some download. And then there is a contact me form. You don't need to fill this out or use this at all. This does require you to interact or interface with a completely different API, which we're not going to be going into today, but it is an option if you do feel like using it. And again, there is obviously a footer right here for you to use however you'd like. So this is what we're going to be ending up with, but for now, I just want to make sure that everyone has Visual Studio Code installed. Everyone good on that? Okay, great. So I'm going to open up a new Visual Studio Code window. And over here, I'm just going to pull this or clone this GitHub repo. So you can see I have Visual Studio Code open now. This is sort of what it should look like. The colors may be a little different. You might have a different pop-up because you have just installed it. Maybe some things over here. Don't worry about any of that. We are just going to hit clone Git repository. And then you can provide the repository URL or clone from GitHub. Again, if you have not already, you may need to connect your GitHub account to VS Code just so you have access to all your repositories. But and that shouldn't take too long either. So just make sure you do that as well. Is everyone following so far? Am I going too fast, too slow? Just want to stop, maybe pause, check in. Very quiet group, except for Abhinav. Abhinav is very active. So yeah, these streams will be saved both on Twitch and they will also be saved on YouTube, so you can access them from there later on. So you don't need to sit through the entire thing right now. If there's something else you need to do, by all means, go ahead and do it. And this will be up on YouTube and Twitch afterwards for you to go back and review. So definitely no pressure on there. Okay, so again, make sure to go to, where did this go? Go to this right here, this link. So github.com/Abdullah50053. That is my username /GHW, which is Global Hack Week -deploy, which we are deploying our first web app. So that is the name of the GitHub repo, and just clone or create a template of it. So you can click, let's just do this together. Over here, we just want to click use this template, create a new repository. All right, created a new repository, then this is the template. We can do GHW deploy to. All right, and we do need to make it public just so that we can actually deploy it to GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages does not allow you to deploy pages if the repository is private. So make sure to click the public option, and you can always take it down later, no problem. But for this, you will need to do public. And then just hit create. And again, if you're still setting up your Visual Studio, no worries at all. And you don't need to include all branches. You don't need to do any of that. Just hit create repository, and then it should make a new repository. And here we go. We have GHW-deploy2, and this is the new repository with a bunch of initial commits. So now you have a completely clean version of the template now. All right. So where are we right now with installation of Visual Studio? There's been a lot going on. Installation of Visual Studio Code and just setting up your GitHub account on Visual Studio and creating a template of this on your GitHub account. So once these three things are done, just let me know in the chat so I know where we're at. We have about, let's see. Okay, yeah, we're doing pretty good on time. So no huge worries there. So Mo Ready 007 asked, what did I say about the clone Git repo on VS Code? So on VS Code, this is after you've linked to your GitHub account. My GitHub account was already linked, so it looks something like this. But you're going to want to click on Clone Git repository. Then this little pop-up should come at the very top saying clone from GitHub. And you can just click on that, and then you can search repository names, or you can just click on it and some should pop up. So mine over here popped up, it's GHW-deploy2. So I'm just gonna click on that and drop this in, let's say my desktop, select as repository destination, and then it'll ask you what you want to do with the cloned repository, and you just wanna open it up. So you can open it in this window or a new window, it doesn't matter too much. And once you've done that, then you should have access to your sort of file tree over here on this side, on this left Explorer slide. And this is sort of where we're going to be making all of our changes. All right, Mo, ready? Did that answer your question? All right, we'll just give it another couple minutes. Okay, perfect. So is everyone good on this? Yes? Thumbs up? Ones in the chat? Got GitHub connect to VS Code, okay. Yes, we got that ready, nice. Everybody else, very quiet group actually. Again, no need to be shy. Okay, perfect. We got a yep, go ahead. That's awesome. All right, so it looks like we're doing pretty good. Next, what I'm going, you all can like explore through this sort of file tree, but now that you have gotten this code, again, basically what you're doing is you're cloning this to your own local machine, and that's what this one, that command did earlier. But now that you have it here, you can go into the dist folder, and in this dist folder, there's going to be an index.html, and this is sort of what we're going to be editing. So um, this is the files for everything, or this is the file that actually has all the information in it, right? So this right here is sort of the title, Global Hack Week. We have the menus, and this entire thing is in like HTML as well. So it's very simple to understand. And even if you don't understand HTML, you can just look at the sort of comments and see what is going on. So over here, you can see that this is the navigation. The navigation menu at the top was, let's pull that up. I don't remember where it went. Great. Let's pull it up from here. And we have our deployments. This is a previous deployment that I was working on yesterday, just to prep this for us today. That is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this right here. Okay, perfect. So again, took a little bit, my bad. But up here is the sort of navigation menu, and you can see that correlate to what's going on over here. So over here we have this branding for the nav bar, which is at the top of the page. It says Global Hack Week. Now we can change that to say whatever we want. So we can change this to, let's say, our name. All right, so that's my name now. And we have the menu over here with a portfolio, about, and contact. And honestly, I think we're good over there. So let's move down a little bit. And then we have this over here, Izzy the Internet Inchworm. This is not our name, so let's change that to what our name is. All right, so I'm gonna change that again to Abdullah Hassani, and obviously just write whatever you want. So if your name is Malik, you can put in Malik. If your name is Mo Ready, you can put Mo Ready. And if your name is Zaim, you can put Zaim. All right. And then you have the subheading over here for the masthead, and the masthead is just what's directly underneath the big text. So this is the big text up here where it says, is he the Internet Inchworm? And this smaller text down here is the subheading. So right now it says hacker, coder, student, and you can change that to whatever is relevant to you. So if I can say coach at MLH, oops, I did not spell, or let's do the full, Major League Hacking. All right, and I think that looks good. So I'll just save it to coach at Major League Hacking, and this is what it's going to say right underneath the Izzy the Internet Inchworm. All right, and then you have the other sections for portfolio, and this would take a much longer time to sort of edit. So this is more, you can do this on your own time, but that's the entire section for the portfolio. It goes sort of from line 55 all the way down to 123. And this is a lot of like repeated code because again, these portfolio items are pretty similar, right? The only real difference is just the images and where they're located. So a lot of repeated code there. And then after that, you can see we have the about section in here. And again, you can change that to whatever you'd like, right? So right here, you have the about section content. Right now it's two columns, yeah. So you can change it to whatever you'd like. Right now it has a little Global Hack Week blurb, right? Each month we host a Global Hack Week where you can learn new skills, build your portfolio, attend fun sessions, and connect with other hackers in the MLH community. Now this doesn't say anything about me. So let's say I am a coach, oops, capital C, coach at MLH. And okay, that's good for the first one. And then for the second one, let's see. I am also a student. And then we can close that off with these tags right here. I'm not sure how they ended up 2 lines underneath. All right. And that's sort of just how we edit the rest of this. Again, you can edit the contact section. You can edit the footer if you'd like. Because this entire thing is using an MIT license, which is a specific sort of license that basically grants anybody who is using this or anything of theirs full access to change whatever they want, do whatever they want with the code. Basically, it's out there. You can do whatever you feel like with it. You can brand this however you want. You should still give them credit just because that's what it is, but this is essentially what you're going to end up with. All right. So we do have one question in the chat. What are we building? So currently we are building this right here. We're building a sort of portfolio. Right now it has a bunch of placeholder text, which just as easy the Internet Inchworm, little subheading. We have our working navigation menu up here as well. And we're going to be actually deploying this as a web app online. So that's sort of what we're building today. All right. So I'm just going to give you all a few minutes to change up whatever you want, take a look at that. And in the meantime, I'll just be answering other questions that might be coming up in the chat. So again, if you have anything going on, anything you might want to ask, any questions, now's the time to. Sure, yeah. I can give so Andy just asked if I can give a quick overview of what everything that we just did, very quick crash course, and I think that's a great idea. So we started off by downloading Visual Studio Code or any IDE. If you have an IDE already, that's great. If not, no problem. You can download Visual Studio Code. It's a super convenient IDE. So once this is downloaded, you're going to want to go to this link right here, github.com/Abdullah50053/GHW-deploy. And it is in the chat. Let me pin that again. Right there. And you're just going to want to use this template. So on the top right, there's this big green button that says use this template. And then you're going to want to create a new repository. You can call it whatever you want. And this repository is going to be yours. So it's going to show up on your GitHub account. So once you've done that, let me go to the second one that I made off of that. So I made this template off of that template, or this isn't a template. I made this repository off of that template, and now I have GHW-deploy2 over here. Now in Visual Studio Code, I am going to, let's say we're in a new window, connect your GitHub account if it's not connected already. And then over here, you're just going to want to click clone Git repository and then clone from GitHub. And this is sort of where you're going to be connecting your GitHub account. And once you've clicked that, your repository name should show up as GHW-deploy2. And you can just click that, decide wherever you want it, and then just put it over there. I'm not going to go through and do all of that again because I already have it over here. And honestly, I'm running low on space on my laptop. But that's sort of the really quick crash course for how we got to this right here. Then you're just going to have your file tree on the left-hand side. Drop down the dist menu. And in that dist menu, there should be an index.html file. And we're just changing up that index.html file right now to sort of look however we want it to look, and make it look real pretty, personalize it a little bit just so it has our name on it, and then we're going to be deploying it very soon. All right, you're welcome. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions? These are all great questions. Anyone running into any issues right now? I know that at this time, usually a lot of issues that usually start cropping up somewhere. So if you do have any, just feel free to put those in the comments. Okay, nothing going on. That's great. So one other thing we can do is actually visualize what we're working on live. So you can actually run, if you have npm already on your machine, you can run npm start in the terminal, npm start. So this will be in the terminal. That should be, if you're way down here, you can either use your mouse. So you can see my mouse over here. You can put it right up against the blue bar at the very bottom. It's blue for me. And just drag that up. Then you can see the terminal. You can also just type up terminal up here and it can open that up. Terminal. Where is it? I think it's Control Shift P. Show and run commands, and then terminal. So you can start a terminal from there, or I believe there's some way to start it from up here. Yeah, you just want to click new terminal. So there's different ways of doing that. And then if you end up typing up npm start, hit enter on that, then it is not able to do anything because I did not install any of the packages. That is on me. So what you're going to want to first do, that's my bad, is install all the packages, right? And that's just a really quick like npm I, and you can use start bootstrap dash freelancer, and that will take care of all the package requirements that you need. So npm I, and this is in the README already, so all you need to do is copy and paste it. And if you go down to download and installation, it is the very second second bullet point. So just copy paste npm I start bootstrap dash freelancer, and you can paste that over here. and make sure you're in the correct terminal. Ooh, there we go. Thank you, Zain, for the call out. And let me hide myself too, actually. That way I'm not in the way. Is that small enough? I'm trying to get even smaller. Or I can just move this over a little bit more. There we go. So again, I just did npm I start bootstrap one word dash freelancer, and then it installs all the packages that it is looking for. All right. And then we can go and type up npm start. And this should, if everything works out, start our local host. And you can see over here, that is exactly what it did. And again, make sure to edit everything. You can change this from start bootstrap to, again, your name, and so on and so forth, and that should fix everything for you. All right, any questions there so far? So actually, let me show this actually in action. So this right now says start bootstrap in really big words. Let's change this to, so we wanted my name here, and then just reload this. Make sure to hit save. Then right here, you can see it says Abdullah Hassani. And then if we changed it for the method heading as well, we're gonna write Global Hack Week here. Then it does the same thing over here. And again, just make sure to hit reload every time just so it's able to refresh everything you have on the screen. I just hit Command R because I'm on a Mac. You can also hit Control R if you're on Windows, and that should refresh the screen for you. All right. Everyone good so far? Okay, let me kill this. And I can close this as well. Okay, so it looks like we have some people who are done changing up everything they wanted to change. Let's see. And again, if you want to review any of what I told you, most of it is just written over here. Very straightforward. Again, just cloning all the files, npm run build to do all this. This is more advanced npm scripts. And if you don't already have npm installed, you can actually go ahead and install that from online. Honestly, just npm installation. And then over here, you'll get the npm docs, which will get you to downloading and installing Node.js and npm. And this goes over everything you need to know to actually install it. All right, so Malik is done. Where's everybody else with this currently? I just want to make sure I'm not getting too far ahead or I'm not going too slow. Okay, we've got a couple people who are done. That's great. So Andy asked what npm does, and npm is sort of a package manager. So usually when you're actually coding something up, you don't want to code everything from scratch, because if you code everything from scratch, that's going to be a ton of code. So what npm does, it has a bunch of different packages, really small packages that you can install and use whichever one of those packages are actually relevant to you in your website. So you can also create some packages, and that's sort of what these Start Bootstrap freelancer like team did, right? They installed all the packages that were required to actually make um, this sort of template usable, and they just packaged it all into one package. And npm is sort of a place where you can publish those packages and other people can download them. So throughout like any web development that you'll be doing, npm is probably going to show up a lot more. Npm is it's like a huge package manager, very popular. There are some alternatives as well. I know Yarn is one of them. Yarn is a good package manager as well. Another new sort of up and coming one is Bun, like Bun. And I know theirs is like really good because it's fast. So if I try to just replace npmi with like Bun install Start Bootstrap Freelancer, then again, it is usually a lot faster as well. It's just a drop-in replacement. You can also use Bun, and then I'm not sure if Bun Start works because this is already configured to use. Okay, yeah, it does. Awesome. So this is sort of what Bun Start would do, very similar to what npm Start does. Or actually exactly the same. It is just a little bit faster. So really up to you which package manager you want to use. It's completely a matter of preference. Okay, awesome. And I do want to mention, again, you can go into this and really take a look at it, but for example, the masthead, you have the avatar image over here, and the avatar image is actually located in assets/image/avatars.svg. So that's like assets. Oops, it's in the source. It's assets, image, and then you have this avatars.svg. And SVG is like scalable vector graphics. I believe that's what it stands for. It's sort of a completely encoded version of an image. So it's what an image would look like in code, essentially. So again, you can get like a PNG or like any picture of yourself and just go Google like a PNG to SVG converter and convert it to an SVG file and just drop it in over there. Again, if you do drop it in, you either do need to change this the name to, like, let's say if I had a picture of myself called Abdullah, I'd have to change this from like avatars to abdullah.svg just because that's what the name of the SVG file would be. So they do need to match. And then the similar thing goes for all of these assets right here. So if you have all these different portfolio items, for example, we have the cabin. These are PNGs, so a lot less work for any of, like, if you want to change any of these. This right here is like the cabin picture. And if you wanted to change this, you can just replace this with a different image of, let's say, whatever your project is that you want to display on your portfolio. And then just you can either drag and drop it into VS Code, which is a really convenient feature of VS Code actually, or you can actually move it in the file tree and just change the name of it over here, and then it'll show up. So actually, let's try doing that as well. Let me see if I have any pictures on my. Okay, perfect. So I do. I have this picture right here, which some of y'all might have been there, but there's like an Bob Ross painting event, painting being in quotes. It was like a Bob Ross event where we just put up a Bob Ross video on the screen, and then we all sort of followed along. And this is what my masterpiece looked like after that. So we're just going to try using this as a sort of drop-in replacement instead of like the cabin, for example. So let's do that. So this right here is a screenshot. Again, I just drag and dropped it. We can rename this to something simple so we don't need to type all of this out. Let's say woods.png. So we can go back to our index, and in place of cabin, woods, save that, and we can say bun start. And now if we scroll down and see why this isn't replacing it. Oh, this is cabin again. Weird. Woods. Let's delete this so we don't need to worry about it. I don't know why this thing keeps changing to cabin, but okay. It flashed there for a second and then it just reset right back to cabin. Very strange. Let's see if we can edit this inline and then see if we refresh this. There we go. Okay, so now you can see we have this over here and this thing doesn't exist anymore. So let's change that. We can honestly just Command F to find, I think it was called cabin. Yeah, so over here, there was another picture of the cabin. So we can change that to woods.png. And then we refresh this again. We can open this up. And now we can see in our portfolio that we have a picture of exactly what we wanted there. All right, so this is sort of just how to change the images around. And again, you can do your own deep dive into it and just change whatever else you want to change. All right, so how are we feeling so far? So we have a question, what is Start Bootstrap? So Start Bootstrap is just the template that I used for this. We can actually go in there and check out the original way down, I believe here. This README has a little bit of information. So Start Bootstrap is an open source library of free Bootstrap themes and templates. So again, I just use a template, like a pre-existing template. And this is under the MIT license, so it's all good. I can use the template, I can change it up, I can do streams with it. So that is something important to actually make sure of, is what the license looks like before you use any code that is published on the internet. So yeah, Start Bootstrap is just this sort of project where they have a bunch of free themes where you can browse their templates and themes. I looked through this, I just searched up like a portfolio theme, and this is sort of what I came up with, or what came up, the freelancer theme, which is just a portfolio of somebody's work and a little about and contact me section. So something really simple, but it's great. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, any other questions? Okay, how are we feeling so far? Are we ready to deploy? Do we still want to spend some time? Okay, Andy's ready to get into deploying it. I love to see that. All right, everyone else ready to deploy? Okay, all right. So this is going to be the real fun part of this. So there are, again, multiple ways to deploy it. We're just going to be using the very simple one of using GitHub Pages. So this is, again, really simple, and it works best for static websites. So if you have a lot of like dynamic parts to your website, GitHub Pages may not work because it's not at that level. Again, it is a free hosting site. So for more complex web apps, you may need to actually purchase sort of like a separate hosting provider for that. But let's get into it. All right, so there's a way to do this from the command line. I'll probably not do that just because I think it's a lot easier to see any of these changes happening when it is over here. Okay, so let's say we have all of this over here, right? So first thing we want to do is actually commit all of our changes to GitHub. So we changed everything locally, right? We have all these different changes. We have our name. I'm just gonna do this one more time because I have no idea where everything went. Cloud, I cannot spell cloud. And MLH, and change this to my name. Okay, great. So we have all this, we've changed everything, it looks beautiful. All right, first thing we want to do is actually commit our stuff. So at the top left, or somewhere on the left side, like left-hand bar, you should have source control. So you're going to want to click on this source control icon and just have any message. So I can write like update or change names. So anything you want. This message is completely inconsequential. It'll just show up over here, like where this says initial commit. Whatever you changed, it'll just show up over there. So just sort of for you to be able to organize your Git history. So you can write whatever you want for that. And once you're done with that, all you need to do is hit commit. And then it'll ask you something. Do you want to stage everything and then commit them? So you just hit yes. And then everything should be pushed. So now I'm over here at GHW deploy 2. And if I just reload this, then you can see that this has not actually. Okay, so then I actually need to push. That's my bad. So I did a git add, so I added all my files. That's sort of what staging is, and then committed it, which is writing sort of the commit message, which I wrote. I think it was like update names or something, and then I actually need to push all my commits to the master branch. So I'm just going to click on sync changes. It'll say it'll pull and push commits from and to master. I'll just hit OK, and now it will show up over here. If I just reload this page, then you can see over here, it says change names. And whatever I changed, it should have changed that there. So again, if you've never used Git before, this is actually your very first Git commit. So huge congrats to you. All right. All right. Has everyone done this step at least? Pretty straightforward. You just need to click a few buttons and you should be there. Again, just as a reminder, let me make actually one quick change just so it is obvious. Major League Hacking. So let's say I wanted to make a quick change, right? Again, I have this change right here. I can stage it for commit, which is, I believe it's this plus button. So this is staging it. This is the equivalent in your terminal of writing git add and then adding the file and then commit. I can write a commit message, update. It's just a super simple commit message just to have something there. That's committing it, and then actually pushing my changes is the third step. So I want to click sync my changes, and then it pushes everything to my GitHub repo. And right now it says change names. It should say update then. And here it is. All right. Awesome. Perfect, perfect. So now we can actually go in and actually see that we have all these changes that have been made. If you actually want to review the changes that you made, you can just click on this commit history right here on the left-hand side. It says change names. I want to see that update. So I can click on that commit and I'll be able to see everything that say I added, which is this woods.png, all the changes that I made in the code, and that'll show all of that. So it's great. Everyone done with pushing their code? Yes? All right. Malik is yes. Andy is yes. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Okay, next what we're going to want to do is actually publish this, right? So how do we do this? Now, I want you all to watch closely. So first we go to settings, all right? And you all can follow along as well. So at the very top, like where it says code, there's on the very far right-hand side, there's a settings icon. So you can just hit settings. That'll open up this really, like, I don't know, kind of complicated. There's a lot going on here, right? This is where you're going to go to pages under code and automation on the left-hand navigation bar. So I think I'm actually in the way. Let me move myself. Can I do that? There we go. Hopefully I'm still audible. So you're gonna want to go to pages and just click on that. And over here, GitHub Pages is sort of where you're hosting all of your stuff, right? So where we're going to be hosting it is GitHub Pages, and just from this GitHub repository, we're going to build and deploy. So from the source, we can just hit deploy from a branch, and the actual branch that we're going to be using is our root branch. So it says GitHub Pages is currently disabled. What we want to do is use our master branch. So we can just click on that. And then for the actual folder, we can just use root. That's fine. And then we just hit save. So now you can see there should be this update over here where it says your GitHub Pages site is currently being built from the master branch. So now we're just going to wait for this thing to get deployed. And then once this is up, we can actually see our page like fully ready and up. So it's going to be great. Any questions so far? All right. If not, I'm going to take a quick water break and I'll wait on this site to finish being built. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Again, I'm here to answer any questions that you have. So it doesn't matter how small, how big, how far behind, any of that. I'm here to answer those questions. All right. So let's just give it a minute. Okay, so we have a question. How do we do the first commit? So for the first commit, what we want to do is, let me open up Visual Studio. So right here, let's say you have all your changes. Let me make another change. Woods test. So I have all my changes over here, and now I can see the change in this sort of source control. So I have my Explorer, that's sort of where it defaults you to. All right, and then on the left, right above that on mine, it might be different on yours. There should be this icon with like a circle with a few other circles stringing away from it. That's your source control. So you can click on that, and for the first commit, what you want to do is first stage your changes. So that's just wherever it says changes, you can hit the plus button. So that's to stage everything, or you can just type up a message. And this message is sort of a commit message to keep yourself organized. So I can just write like 1, 2, 3 over here. And then I'm just going to hit commit and then sync changes. So committing it is actually committing it, but it commits it locally. So the thing about the commits is that's more to keep yourself organized as well, right? So you can have these things. Let's say you're trying to make a bunch of changes for something, but you don't want to keep triggering, let's say, a CI job. And a CI job might be just redeploying the website, right? So you can just make like one commit over there, and then I can make another commit over here. Let's say I change this to like I instead of you. And then now there's a new change. So I can stage that again and then write new update. That's a new commit. And this is sort of just now I have two changes just sitting here. And to actually push those changes, I just want to hit sync changes. And then this just gives you a little warning. You're going to be pushing to master. And this is sort of the main branch. This this you want to do, as frequently as possible. You're trying to commit. So I'm going to say OK. And then I'll have both of those commits actually go and get pushed to my master branch. So let's see where this is at. So you can see over here, I have a new update. Now this right here just shows the sort of CI job, this yellow dot. So currently it's pending. So you can actually check the details for your for what's going on as well. This will sort of show you more information on how the build works. So setup job, pull checkout, build, uploads everything and completes it. Now it's doing everything, and last step is to deploy. So this is now fully deployed to GitHub Pages. So you all should probably be at this settings area under pages. And if you just hit refresh, you'll have this link up here where it says your site is live at, and then just give you your username and the name of the repository. So you're just going to want to visit that site. And right now it's going to look something like this, right? And that's kind of sad. This is just a README. So what GitHub Pages actually does is it looks for the index.html file, and it's actually not able to find the index.html file in the root, right? Because our root looks like this. So what we need to do is actually help it find the index.html file, which is under dist, right? The dist folder, D-I-S-T. So what we're going to do is actually just add /dist at the end of our folder, or as at the end of our link, and this takes us here. All right. And you can see that all the changes are there. Now I have my beautiful Bob Ross painting up here as well. I've got my name up here, Global Hack Week Cloud. All of these links do completely work, and they take you to wherever in the page that you want to go. I have those other changes that I made earlier, test over here, and then I can create instead of you can create. So those are the other commits that I made, and you can see all those updates are up over here. All right. So congratulations, you have just deployed your very first web app. And I don't know if there's those, those like sound effects where like a clapping sound effect, but just pretend to have a clapping sound effect going for all of you. Let's see, we have confetti. Oh, it's a background. Well, that's sad, but congratulations. You have successfully deployed your very first web app. And yeah, that is it. So you can honestly just put it in the chat as well. You can check out other people's if you want. You can check out mine if you'd like. So Zaim just posted one. Let's see if we can get to this. I am not able to copy and paste. But this is one example of sort of what it looks like. Malik, can you explain what you mean by the domain thing? Do you mean just connecting it to like a different domain? Let's say if you wanted like malik.com, connecting it to that. All right, but this is awesome, right? We've all successfully just deployed a web app. Let's actually check out Zaim's. See if I'm spelling this right. ZAYEEMMOHD GHW deploy master, and that should take us to a README. Perfect. And then if we go to dist, awesome. Zaim, this is what yours looks like. This is amazing. Fully deployed. And then Malik also got one up. So that is great. So we've got a question in the chat. Can we set up a custom domain name for it? If you have a domain, let's say andy.dev, how can I set this to the app? This is a great question, and this is sort of the next step, right? So we have a domain already that's set up, that's given to us by GitHub, but what if we don't want to use that one? So what we do for that is we actually go back to the settings. And again, you probably do need to purchase a domain if you want to do this, but if you already have one, that's great. Or if you go to a hackathon, MLH does partner, or I know they were partnering with .tech domains, so you could have gotten a .tech domain for free, and that's like a great example of just how you can deploy one of your websites to, let's say, a .tech domain as an example, right? And just show your hack off to the world. So for that, you're going to want to go over here and back to the Pages tab. All right, and you have this custom domain right here. And then let's say this is basically saying exactly what I said, right? So allow you to serve your site from a domain other than abdullah50053.github.io. So let's say I wanted to do portfolio.abdullahhassani.com. And this will only work because I do have like abdulhassani.com as a domain. But if you don't have a domain, obviously this will not work because it's not yours. So you can just hit save and it will try doing a DNS check. It will definitely fail for me right now because I did not set that up yet. So it'll ask you to check the documentation. So an easy way of doing this is, let me go to, I should have this open. So I have this through Squarespace, and I don't know if I want to pull this up on here. Let me see if there's anything sensitive. I do have a few sensitive stuff, but it's not letting me hide anything. Okay, let me just zoom in here. Hopefully this doesn't. Okay, there we go. So this is as an example, right? Oh, whoops. I just leaked an entire key. Whatever, I'll have to reset those. But this is sort of the custom records, right? And these custom records are, because this is for my site, abdulhassani.com, these are sort of the DNS settings. And a custom record is what we're going to want to use for this. So right now we have GEC, live, play, and search. If you go to play.abdulhassani.com, you'll get like a game of Tetris, for example. But let's say you wanted to add a record. You can do that, and the host for this would be, let's see, portfolio, because we're trying to do portfolio.abdullahhassani.com, and then this will probably be a CNAME type of record, and priority doesn't really matter. And then we're going to get the alias data from GitHub. So let's see what that looks like. We have the documentation open, and not sure why it's not giving that immediately. Okay, perfect. So over here, configure a custom domain and at least one alias with your DNS provider. So I have already done all this, right? But I need to add to an IP address for GitHub pages. So in that case, that would be this right here. I can copy and paste this and just point, copy paste a different one. Point this to an IP address for GitHub pages, which would be this right here. And this is actually an A record, not CNAME. And if I just hit save, then that should work. So custom record was saved. Go back to pages and check the DNS record again. And now we wait. So again, this only works if you do have your own custom domain. I would have liked to give out like free .tech domain names or something, just because that would have been really cool. But if not, then like, because we can't do that, you can go to any website that sells domains and just get one from there. Let's see, custom subdomain, set up as an A record. Okay, I was right the first time. CNAME record pointing to this right here. So it tells you what you need to do. I love that. And let me edit this to a CNAME again, and to my own alias. Perfect. Record saved. And then if I try to check this again, now it should work because hopefully the configuration was correct. Okay, it's checking it. So any questions on that? That's sort of how you connect a custom subdomain. It is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's tricky. There's a lot of like jumping around you do need to do from sort of whoever your domain provider is and GitHub. But if you're able to do that, then it's not much of a problem. It should be pretty straightforward. And again, if you'd like to, you can actually purchase a domain right now, like as you're on this stream. And there's a bunch of options. I know GoDaddy is a very popular one. I use Squarespace for mine, for one of mine, and Namecheap for another one. So again, lots of another invalid record. Did I spell portfolio right? I did. What's going on here? Let me reload this. Oh. Portfolio is a CNAME pointing to GitHub. Yeah, this might just take a minute to propagate, but this is essentially what it looks like. All right. Yeah, a lot of technical errors there. Okay, yeah, see, they're provisioning a TLS certificate. So that's good. That means there's progress. That means this is working. That's awesome. Yeah, see, DNS check successful. It looks like I just have to reload the page there just to make sure it actually got confirmed. But that is essentially how it works. Awesome. We all just successfully have a page got a page deployed and learned how to connect it to our own custom domain. Any other questions on that so far? So Andy has a question. If I have purchased a domain like andy.dev, then I just need to paste that domain in the GitHub custom domain section and save it and all set. So it is a little bit more complicated than that. So really just depending on where you purchase it from, because some providers make it a lot easier than others. For me, let's say my custom domain, instead of like, because I already have abdullahhassani.com taken by like another personal site. So if I wanted to have, let's say, portfolio.abdullahhassani.com as a custom domain over here, then I would add it over here, but the DNS check would not succeed because there's no way for GitHub to know that that's really mine. So what I would have to do in that case is go to, I'm trying to, again, not leak any sensitive information. But I'd have to go to like my Squarespace account, for example, right? And then at the very top, you will just sort of navigate to your DNS settings. Let me move this up a little bit. You navigate to like your DNS settings, which I can zoom in a little bit more. And at the very, this is like a really strange game to be playing. Okay, so this is sort of what it looks like at the top. There's a dashboard and domains and domain names. I'm just clicking on DNS, and this is sort of the DNS settings that matches up with whatever we have going on over here, right? And these DNS settings, it actually tells you over here what that is, right? So DNS records point to services your domain uses, like forwarding your domain or setting up an email service. We are just going to be sort of forwarding our domain, right? So essentially what we're setting up is a forwarding address from whatever the current GitHub account name is, like I believe it was Abdullah5053.github.io / whatever the repository name is. But this just points it straight directly to where I want it to be, right? So just go to DNS and then go down here to custom records and then set it up, like add a record, Right now, you can see a lot of mine are actually using Vercel. That's another really, I think, much easier to use provider. So that is another option if you wanted. But again, Abdullah5053.github.io, added that to portfolio, and this should be, okay, so the certificate is still being provisioned, so it might take a little bit of time, but let me see if I can go to it right now. Oh yeah, there we go. So it is up at portfolio.abdullahhassani.com / if I wanted to go to dist, then right here, I've got my entire portfolio. All right, Andy, hopefully that answered your question. So again, just it is a little bit more complicated than just adding the website to this right here as custom domain, just because GitHub has no way of knowing that that's really yours, right? Because if you put in, let's say I put in like google.com, right? Portfolio.google.com. I don't own google.com. I wish I did, but I don't. So you really just got to have something in the backend that sort of confirms that, yes, this is mine, right? And that's what that is. This is just you saying, yes, add Abdullah50053.github.io as sort of a different address that, so I can confirm that this is actually mine. And that's what it's doing. All right, hopefully that answered your question. All right, thank you, Andy. Let's see. Zaim has another question. What are the other free hosting sites other than GitHub Pages? Free is actually very difficult to find for hosting most of the time. I know one that I really like to use, which has a very generous free tier actually, but it's starting to be less and less generous because everyone wants to make money, is Vercel. Well, you can see I have Vercel alternatives already on on search, but Vercel right here. Very simple, easy to use. This is like very it was 2022 when like this sort of website was really popular, you know, the really modern-esque sort of thing. Vercel does have a free tier and it's very generous. I use it for a lot of sites. I think this is actually my go-to over GitHub Pages just because this has like integrated like very good Next.js support. I just log in with GitHub. Let me see if make sure nothing is showing up that shouldn't show up. And then you can see I have like a bunch of different websites that are up on this right now and a bunch of failed builds. But if I wanted to, I can, let's say, add a new project. And this is just going to ask me to import a Git repository. This is super easy, right? Import Git repository, GHW deploy to. This is the one that I was just working on. I can import this, and then it tells you, okay, this is sort of what the project name is, framework preset, what sort of preset you want to use. If it was like a Next.js app, you can use this. If it was a different app, you can use something else. And then what the root directory is. This one, you can actually choose what the root directory is, which is very, very useful. So this one, because we're going to be actually using dist, right? This actually allows us to not have to go into the dist folder from like the URL itself, right? Because you might have realized at first, if someone goes to your website, then it immediately takes them to the README page, which obviously we don't want. If we have like a official or professional website, you don't want to take somebody to a README and say, yeah, this is sort of the README, and they have no way of actually clicking into the real website. So that's where this is really useful, where it actually tells you, hey, we're going into the dist as a root directory. That's where our source code is located. And then we're going to continue from here, and we can honestly just deploy it. And similar to GitHub, Vercel also gives a free domain that we can use. So it's just going to, it shouldn't take too long. Yeah, look at that. It was super quick. So we have our incident preview right here. And you can see this goes directly to ghw-deploy2.vercel.app. So we don't actually need to type in /dist over here like we had to for GitHub Pages, because GitHub Pages only allows you to use the root directory. This actually allows you to go into subdirectories such as dist, and again, if I type in dist now, it doesn't even exist because our new root directory for for sales purposes or for our deployment purposes is actually the dist directory. So that is one of the alternatives. I know I just I went on and on about Vercel for quite a bit, and we actually just deployed this project using Vercel as well. But there are a lot of other alternatives. I know Netifly is one of them. Heroku used to have a very generous free tier. I don't believe they have a free tier anymore. Yeah, those are just some of the options. You can do it through AWS, through Azure as well. You have a ton of options. I do recommend doing your own research, seeing which one works best for you, because some of them are better at some things than others. All right. Hopefully that answered that question. All right, let's just go through the rest of these. Thank you, Andy, once again. Thank you, Malik. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming to all these sessions as well, right? You all being at these sessions really makes me happy, right? So I'm not talking to like an empty room, so to speak. So I appreciate that you all are active in the chat. And Vercel has a free tier. Yes, it does. Actually, all these projects that I have are on Vercel's free tier. So it's very useful for sure. Vercel is good because it's usage based. So while you have like very little usage or very little traffic coming to your websites, you can use Vercel. But as soon as you start, becoming a bigger company or you're getting a lot more traffic, then they begin to charge you. Which like at that point you can honestly just move to a cheaper provider. So Vercel does have a very generous free tier, and I appreciate that as someone who doesn't want to spend money on my deployments. But if you are building something that you plan on scaling up, then just keep that in mind. That don't get too integrated into Vercel's platform early on, just because you want to have options to jump around to the cheapest option long term. And Netify also has a free tier. I believe it does. Yeah, I believe so. And then Andy said you can get a free domain name for 1 year from the GitHub Student Pack, and that is absolutely true. I'd highly, highly recommend you all get the GitHub Student Pack. It's at hackp.ac/pack. That is sort of the GitHub link to get. I'm not spelling this right. So this is sort of the MLH link, not GitHub link. This is the MLH link to get GitHub Student Pack for free if you're a student, obviously. And this gives you a bunch of they give a bunch of stuff. You get GitHub Copilot for free as well. So you might have seen that actually activate on my VS Code while I was typing up. It sort of had some autocomplete features. So super, super useful, right? It cuts down your development time by a ton. Definitely take a look at that if you are a student. All right. Ruler said, I appreciate you the way you jump into details. You're welcome. I I try to anything that I know, I try to let you all know that as well. I think knowledge is good, right? Having a more detailed understanding of everything is useful. So I appreciate that. Malik, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being at all my streams. I love MLH. I also love MLH. Unicorn Platform. Ashu asked, how about Unicorn Platform? I actually don't know enough about Unicorn Platform to let's take a look at it. Unicorn Platform. AI website builder for busy founders. So this looks like it helps you build websites without having to know how to code, which is useful for sure for people who don't know how to code. But I do recommend actually knowing, getting into the weeds of it, just because you have a lot more flexibility, you have a lot more say over what happens versus in something like this. I feel like you would probably also need to pay. Yeah, they require you to register straight off the bat. Let's see their pricing. So they do have a lurker, which is free custom code with one published website. So that is pretty good. But again, you're going to be stuck with their branding and you won't be able to use your own domain. So the way I connected like portfolio.abdullahhassani.com, you won't be able to do that. It'll probably be something like abdullah.unicornplatform.com and similar to what GitHub had going on. So again, it is up to you. Obviously, it is a tool and having options is definitely a great idea, but personally, I would go with developing it on my own, just because you learn new skills. You pick up a lot more skills that way. Um, yeah. And again, this is the website link, Hackpack link for anybody who wants to get the GitHub Student Pack. And let's see. All right. So before we get into all the other comments, are there any other questions on sort of just getting deployments up and ready to go? Anyone who's stuck anywhere, I need help with something, please let me know now, because I'm here to help. You can just drop it in the chat. And it looks like we have a conversation going on about the MLH Fellowship. So if you don't know already, the MLH Fellowship is sort of this 12-week long program, which it is paid. You do get like a stipend for completing it. It is highly competitive though. It's sort of like an internship alternative, where if you don't get an internship, or it's similar to an internship, but you're working fully remotely and you're working with engineers from like some big companies to work on like a project for those 12 weeks. So it is it is definitely a competitive application process. I do recommend you just put your best foot forward, and actually coming to these global hack weeks and learning and picking up these new skills is pretty essential to having a really solid resume, especially in this job market. I know a lot of layoffs going on. It's difficult to get a job right now. It's tough out there for sure. So um, yeah, the fellowship would definitely give everybody a leg up, and to get a leg up to get into the fellowship, honestly, just like knowing, for example, how to deploy a web app is a great skill to have. Just because if you can say, yeah, I have, like if you say, yeah, I developed a website, that's like, okay, cool. I believe you, but where's the proof of that? But if you say I developed a website, and you can go to portfolio.malikabinov.com, then it's a completely different story, right? Where they're like, okay, let's go check it out, and then they see like this portfolio right here. They're like, wow, this looks amazing, right? This looks incredible. Uh, let's give them the job. So again, it is great to have these skills, and that's sort of what the Global Hack Weeks are for. Yeah, the Winter MLH Fellowship, I believe the application deadline should be coming up right now. I'm not keeping up too closely with any of that. Applied 3 times, not gotten a good reply from them. Yeah, again, there's so many applicants. I think it is definitely one of the most competitive fellowships out there, just because there's a lot of people who apply. So again, just do your best, put your best foot forward, and coming to Global Hack Weeks, going to hackathons are all great ways of getting a leg up on everybody else. And then Malik asked about unicorn. Hopefully, I mean, I just had it on the screen. Hopefully I went over that. Um, let's see. Okay, I've said can't continue with your application because time zone doesn't match. Yeah, so that is a big issue, because some of the sponsors for the fellowship do want people who are like US based, or at least like North America based, just because it makes it a lot more convenient for them to have conversations at times that are reasonable for both um, the company and for the person. So definitely get your sleep, right? Get your sleep at night, not in the morning. I think that's pretty important. So health over everything. All right. Okay, I think it is starting to cool down a bit in the chat. Are there any other questions? Anything else that I can help you all with? Hopefully, I went over everything in a good amount of detail. Just to recap again, we first downloaded Visual Studio Code, right? That was like sort of step one. We took a look at what the GitHub page looked like. We set up our GitHub account on Visual Studio. Then we actually went in and coded up some changes, right, to this template. So we changed like sort of the header. We changed up our name, changed up some other things, right? We changed up some images maybe, and then we learned how to commit everything to our repository. So after making a template, we created a bunch of commits. So I have 6 commits over here. We learned how to do that from VS Code. And once we did that, we learned how to actually deploy our website using GitHub Pages, and then also using other alternatives such as Vercel, for example. And after we did all that, we now have our own portfolio page up and running right here. So congratulations, you all did that in the last like 1.5 hours. That's actually an incredible accomplishment, right? Uh, getting something from 0 to deployed in 1.5 hours is no small feat. So congratulations to all of you for getting that done. All right. So awesome work, you all. Awesome work. And I'll just be hanging out for a little bit longer now, just to make sure that there aren't any outstanding questions that I can help you all with, or just have a discussion in the chat. But if not, that is really the end of what all we were going to be going over. Again, there are some alternatives actually to this. We went over the alternatives. Yeah, wait, that is pretty much everything we had to cover. So again, we are ending a little bit early, but again, it was great having you all here for the stream. I appreciate you all coming out. Congratulations on having a deployed web app, and hopefully I will see you all tomorrow. We have another session tomorrow on actually running AI models in the cloud. So I hope to see you all there. All right. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome, Malik. Zaim asked if I can refer for the fellowship program. Unfortunately, I don't think I have that ability, but I'm sure you'll get in. You just got to keep trying. You got to put your best foot forward, and now you know how to deploy a web app. So that will definitely give you a leg up over a lot of other people who might not. All right, thanks for coming. Bye, y'all. And let's see. So Zaim just asked, what about changes in code? Does it update automatically? Yes, so it does update automatically, and we actually did see that earlier with this deployment. So we went in and we made an update, remember, for the about section for test and like for example, right in the about section. And those ended up causing a new sort of CI job to run. And that CI basically stands for continuous integration, which just helps you, continuously develop everything. The CI/CD pipelines are sort of just helping you develop things and ship them very quickly. So, for example, we can actually go in and see that happen in real time. I think this isn't a very fun summary. So let's see. I am a coach at MLH, and I am also a student. So let's say I have this right here. I have all my changes. Now I wanted to obviously need to create a commit message and actually push those changes, correct? So update about section. And we want to stage and commit, and then we can push everything. Did that not work? Okay, interesting. Looks like we might be on a different. Okay, I made a change. That's why I need to first pull. I should do this from the terminal. So check what branch I'm on, git branch, git add, git commit. And this is what I'm doing in the terminal or the command line right now is essentially the same thing that I was doing in source control. And I just realized absolutely nobody can see it because I am blocking it. There we go. So I just checked the branch I was on by using git branch, and I'm on the master branch. Git add dot just means everything. So I'm just adding everything, which is honestly just the index.html file, and then git commit. -M for a quick message update about that. Definitely has spelling mistakes, but okay, so it says my branch and the master branch have diverged, and I do not know where they diverge at. So check git pull. And Rebus. Let's just fast forward everything. And it diverged again. Great, okay. Instead of doing it over here, why don't I change it? Oh, it's okay. It's because I created a C name and I didn't get pulled before. That's why all these issues are cropping up. So again, actually resolving those can be a pain. But let's say I wanted to update that. It would be under dist and then index.html. And honestly, I can just edit it straight from GitHub, which I don't recommend anyone does, but right now uh, we'll do it because why not? It's just text. I am a coach at MLH. And over here, we're going to write, I am also a student. And this is spelled very wrong. Okay, I'm also a student. And then we can just commit the changes directly from here. Again, I don't normally recommend you do it this way, but we are in a rush. And if you go back to code, you can see actually over here this yellow dot, and this sort of means the actual CI job is pending. And you can take a look at that in details right here. And this will show you everything that's going on. It's pulling it, it's going to check out the branch, it's going to actually build everything. So you can see all the different like git commands happening there, uploading everything, doing all the cleanup, and then everything is done. Then it's just making sure that everything happened correctly by reporting the build status. So that's already done. And then actual deployment stage happens. And that just keeps deploying it to GitHub pages. So I have this open already right here at GHW deploy to / dist, right? And the about section says this right now, but now that this has finished deploying, I can actually go in here and just hit refresh. And you can see that the about section has updated to I'm a coach at MLH and I'm also a student. So that's sort of the gist of it in terms of just how the CI job works. So again, just to remind everybody, the question was changes in code, does it update automatically? And the answer is yes, but with one caveat that it should be on the branch that the GitHub Pages is connected to. So you remember actually when we went into GitHub Pages and we set the branch for the GitHub Pages site to be master, if we had a different branch and we pushed to master, nothing would happen. But because the GitHub Pages site is currently being built from the master branch, if we push any code to master, that'll automatically kick off the CI job. So Zaim, hopefully that answers your question. All right, Ashu, it was great having you. I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye. All right. Hopefully that answered your question, Zaim. All right. Any other questions? I'll give it a couple minutes. And then if not, we can just end the stream. Also, that should have also updated at portfolio.abdullahsani.com. So if we go to, I believe that's over here, and you can see the about section is still preloaded from what we had earlier. We can load it up again and it updates automatically or immediately, I should say, with Coach at MLH, and I'm also a student. So again, it does have to be on the branch that you've actually set up GitHub pages to be connected to. And same thing with Vercel actually. So Vercel also has very specific branches that you can connect it to. So again, the source over here is master, and it just shows the most recent creation date or time was 3 minutes ago. That's sort of when I just pushed the changes for the about section. All right. Awesome. You're welcome, Zaim. And I believe that is all the questions. I don't think we have any other questions pending right now. So if you do, again, you can just send me a DM on Discord. My username is pretty clear. It's just Abdullah from MLH. Send me a DM. Otherwise, if not, thank you all so much for being here once again. And hopefully, again, I'll see you all tomorrow. All right. Bye, y'all.